Story 1. I have found that simply smiling at someone can really change the vibe of a conversation. It is amazing how a little positivity can make all the difference. Story 2. I like to start a sentence with "I'm not racist, but," and then say something completely bland and not racist at all. As an old white guy, most people are expecting me to say something racist. Story 3. This one requires a little explanation, but stay with me. It's worth it. If you work in a place with dry erase whiteboards, you can use them to play a prank on a coworker. First, write 2 random words and underline them. Then, make a list under those words with your coworker's name and the 3 or 4 other people they would least like to be associated with. Then, and this part is important, erase the words on top just enough so they are impossible to read. Eventually, your coworker will find the list and drive themselves crazy trying to figure out the purpose of the list, who wrote it, and why their name is on it. Story 4. When you're talking to someone who's being difficult, tell them they have something stuck in their teeth. Nope, it's still there. No, still there. Shuts them down fast. Story 5. While driving at night with a friend of mine, another car tailgated us on an almost empty road, swerved around us only to brake check us needlessly. It didn't even feel like aggressive driving, just bad driving. At the next red light, we pulled up next to them, and it was 2 young women. I was content to give dirty looks and a "what the heck" expression, but my friend rolled down his window, leaned over and yelled, "Your friend is really unattractive." I know, immature, but the genius was immediately obvious to me. They both immediately hated us and reacted, thinking, "How dare they, what jerks," etc. But now they're both wondering who he was talking about. We never got to see the full reaction, but all it would take is one of them saying to the other, "I can't believe he said that about you," or something along those lines, and the seed of discord would be planted between the two. Again, I'm not sure it was even effective, but the thrust of the attack seemed clever at the time. Story 6. Nod your head when asking someone for something or suggesting something. The combination of nodding while talking makes them much more agreeable to what you are saying or asking. Story 7. Okay, here's a good one. So, let's say you are talking to someone who is guarded. They clam up and do not say much or respond minimally. Humans want to be understood. They also want to avoid being misunderstood. So, when someone gives a shallow answer, you repeat back that last word. They will elaborate to clear up confusion. Story 8. When you are having a conversation with someone about, say, turtles, change the subject by saying, "Speaking of turtles," then something completely different like, "Did you hear Bob and Emily are back together?" It will confuse them. Story 9. If a tennis opponent is annoying me, I'll ask if they inhale or exhale as they go to serve. No one knows what they do, and it gets them thinking about it. Story 10. When someone says something dumb and I do not want to debate them, I just say, "Yeah, I can see how someone like you would think that," and change the subject. Their insecurities fill in the blanks. Story 11. Start sniffing in the middle of their statement. Don't mention anything. Just look around and keep sniffing. It's the most unnerving thing. You can do it to anyone and you'll immediately mess with them. Story 12. One boss I had would never answer you immediately. He would always take a moment to think about what he was going to say, as if there was no way he was going to be rushed into any decision. It made him appear very organized and sure of himself. I had another boss, and when you knocked on his glass door, he would always wait a moment before waving you in, even when he wasn't doing anything. This made him look more inconsiderate, but he kind of was. Story 13. Okay, so this is more of a harmless one, but it can totally mess with someone in a playful way. If you are talking to someone and you subtly start mirroring their body language, like crossing your arms when they do or leaning in when they do, it creates this weird sense of connection without them realizing it. But then, if you suddenly stop and do something completely opposite, like slouching when they are sitting upright, it can make them feel slightly off balance or confused without knowing why. It is subtle, but it definitely throws them off their rhythm in the moment. Story 14. Another great way to create workplace havoc is to get a confidential stamp and write a fake memo with a made-up policy that you know people would lose their minds over. Stamp it confidential and then leave it on a copy machine somewhere. Story 15. This is a bit of a niche one, But if you ever talk about cocaine, watch who subconsciously makes a sniffing sound. An old friend taught me this one, and it totally works and is hilarious. Story 16. If you can learn to laugh spontaneously at nothing, it's a great way to make someone look and feel foolish for insulting you. When they say a snide remark, laugh at it. And then laugh more and more. Can't feel fake. Laugh until you're bent over holding your sides and can barely breathe. Every time I've done this, everyone else in the room invariably starts laughing too, and then it's easier to laugh even harder because now it's genuinely funny. Wave your hand in the stop, I can't take it anymore gesture. They look completely ridiculous, and you seem like the funniest person in the room. Story 17. If you want to get something out of someone, let them do most of the talking while asking mostly questions, and only respond to the parts they talk about that get you to your goal. You'll still be engaged in the conversation, but people tend to forget about most of what they say if one thing becomes the final point of the conversation. Basically, lead the other person from behind. The trick is subtlety. Story 18. Say to someone, "Now I understand why they talk about you," and then walk away without elaborating. Not only will they be wondering what is said about them, but by whom. Story 19. I worked with a guy that I absolutely could not stand. He wasn't even in our department, but would spend his day walking by our area and reporting to our boss on everything we were doing or not doing. He spent more time doing that than whatever it was he was actually supposed to be doing. I got so tired of him that I decided to outpetty his pettiness by being sarcastically nice to him when other people weren't around. My tone was always so condescending and passive-aggressive. He eventually started telling people how nasty and unprofessional I was. When other people were around, though, I treated him like everyone else. Everyone started thinking there was something wrong with him. He even told human resources and my boss that I was giving him menacing glances during a meeting, which I was, but no one could prove it. He made himself look bad each time he said something because no one else ever saw anything or noticed any bad behavior on my part. I did this for almost a year because it was so much fun, and it drove him crazy. People would always ask me what his problem with me was, and I'd always say I didn't know. Story 20. Mid-conversation, my brother used to quickly pause, lean in, look intently at something on my face, and then either say absolutely nothing or never mind, and insist that it is nothing if I pressed. This happened a lot, and to this day I do not know if my makeup was bad, or if he was just messing with my head. I am envious of his genius if it is the latter, so I share it with you. Story 21. I recently made a friend almost have an existential crisis because I told him that if, when you die, you see your life flash before your eyes, you relive all of the events. What if you're already dead and just seeing it all again? Story 22. When someone is being rude, call them by a name close to theirs but not quite it. If they continue being rude, call them by a different name. Story 23. When somebody is talking to you and keeps rambling on, take your pointing finger and start rubbing your chin area as if you had left a chocolate stain. Look at the rambling talker in the eye when doing this as if you want to tell them, "Hey, you got something on your face." But do not utter a word, just keep listening. The trick is to hold your head high, face above them, not downward. Even lick your finger to moisten to rub and clean your chin as well. Just keep rubbing as if you're cleaning, and very soon the person who will not stop talking will start rubbing their chin as well. Story 24. Just make them think you like them romantically. It makes people uncomfortable, especially if you already have vibes that they're not into you like that. Then you can see how much respect they have for you when you're rejected. Story 25. When you enter the room, begin sniffing and say, "God, what is that smell?" Proceed in this manner throughout the day until they become paranoid or realize it is them that stinks. Story 26. Not really a trick, but when I am driving and someone is continually matching my speed in the other lane that I need to move over into, like keeping up with me in the slow lane or falling back to me in the passing lane no matter a 15 miles per hour difference, for literally miles, I speed up and then tap the brakes a bit. Public service announcement. Only do this if you are the only two cars on the road. 100% of the time it works, they fly past, and I move into my lane after them. 99% of the time they also tap their brakes for no reason, and then assume either they missed something on the road, or you are an insane driver and stay away from you after that. Story 27. Eat a banana while having a conversation, but only take a bite when full eye contact has been established. Then enjoy that banana. It's unsettling. Story 28. During a normal conversation at a respectful volume, I ask people why they are speaking so loudly. It is best when I am speaking with an employee who has come to me for help. Story 29. A psychological trick I pulled on one of my relatives still gives me a sense of satisfaction to this day. When I found out she was talking behind my back, but pretending to be all smiles and sweetness in front of me, I didn't confront her. Instead, I cut her off completely with no explanations or warnings. I blocked her on everything: social media, phone, and in real life. I gave her zero access to my life. It's been 2 years since I made that move, and guess what? She's still posting on Facebook. My other relatives told me about it, about what happened between us, obsessing over something I've long since moved on from. Watching her spin in circles while I live my best life is oddly satisfying. Silence, they say, is the loudest response. You know what you did. Figure it out. Goodbye. Story 30. Don't know if this counts as psychological, but ask someone for something by jumbling up the word of what you are asking for. For example, hey, could you go out to the car and grab the slightly unintelligible gibberish word out of the trunk? So many of my friends would fall for this, often returning to ask what they were supposed to grab. The trick was quickly saying the unintelligible word, like stumbling over it. Sometimes I would try to draw it out with, you missed it. I think it's next to the black blah blah. And they would go look a second time. Story 31. Offer someone a piece of gum. No matter their answer, do not take one yourself. Bonus points if you give them a side eye or ask, are you sure? When they say no. Story 32. An old boss of mine would do this thing that annoyed the hell out of me. After finishing the conversation, I'd walk away. He'd call my name. I'd turn and say, yes. He'd ask, how far would you have gotten if I didn't call you back? Not every time, so it would always catch me off guard. Story 33. One of my favorite things to do when I'm running tabletop games is to have players roll perception and awareness, then jot down a quick note and keep going. A few of those phantom rolls and you've got yourself a paranoid group of players in short order. Story 34. At restaurants, I ask for a common item and act like I'm forgetting the word. Me, oh, can I get some of that red salty tomato sauce that I can dip my fries in? Comes in the little packets. It's so good. Worker, oh, ketchup. Me, yes, that's it. Can I have some of those? I've done this with ketchup, mustard, napkins, and straws. Straws are always a funny one to do. Story 35. I stare at the third eye, the point in the middle of the eyebrows. Can really unnerve and intimidate people. I read it in a book about ninjutsu when I was 8. Story 36. Instead of looking at someone's eyes while talking, look slightly higher and off to the side, like around the hairline and over a few inches. The person ends up leaning their head to try and meet your gaze. Story 37. If I want to mess with someone, I stare at their forehead or chin when talking to them. I usually do it when someone is talking too much. It really ruins their train of thought and flow. Story 38. Stare at the top of their head when you are talking to them. Crinkle your eyebrows together. Maybe glance back down at their eyes like you are trying to maintain contact. Story 39. My friend will randomly say things that sound racist but really aren't. Something like, man, I'm hungry. I feel like a Cuban who just changed his toilet paper roll. Mom, I am tishtu. I feel like a Canadian who just bought some new cologne. I know him well enough to know he is just saying random nonsense, but when people first meet him, it's hilarious to watch their expressions. Some people get offended by whatever random country he chose, and they really can't express why. Story 40. My friend at college was a genius at this stuff. He would see two people who are friendly but not extremely close, talking to each other. He would interrupt by saying, it's really good to see you both getting along like this. The confusion that would overcome them would cause them to start semi-arguing about random stuff. It literally worked every single time. Story 41. If I have a problem with someone, I just keep my eyes and ears open for all their personal issues. These people often mess with other people to feel better about themselves, so I just share their embarrassing secrets to even the playing field. One time, I went as far as to take someone's laptop and accidentally caught a child molester. Story 42. Point at the ground beside someone and say, "You dropped your pocket," then keep going as they stop to search. Or when people are sitting or in line, walk up and pretend to pick something up near them, pocket it and walk away. They will think they dropped their phone or wallet or something important. Story 43. It's nothing crazy. I discovered it myself. If you ever have something in your hands and you want to get rid of it but not throw it away, just look like you're trying to do something in a hurry. Say, "Oh no," and go for one of your pockets while you hand the thing you want someone to take, like an empty soda can or trash, to them. They'll usually just take it because we all have this tendency to want to help someone who is right in front of us and seems like they need to do something urgently. I've done this to friends and my siblings. They will still sometimes fall for it, but not like when I first started it. Those were the days, the Wild West of waste disposal.